Now we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty of what Indians are all about.
I still say we Indian people are believers in the truth. This is the way of life that was given to your people. You're born an Indian, you're going to die an Indian. Indianness is a good life. You're facing an Indian this afternoon.
And if you both are ready to begin, we will start.
I'm ready.
Yes, sir.
All right. Ms. Giles, we'll start with you.
Okay.
Our first question is, what information would you require as a council representative in order to vote on property purchases, business ventures, etc.? If you do not receive this information, will you vote no on such proposals?
Thank you for asking that question, and definitely that's important for council members to have all the information beforehand before making a decision so that you're making the most informed decision. So definitely having those business plans, feasibility studies, market studies, and return on investments and on properties, and really trying to, we don't have a clear indication on right now at the nation is the types of property. So maybe even a priority list that we're purchasing property just to increase our land base, or we're purchasing property for economic development. Or future development for housing or hospitals or whatever it is, communities, whatever it is that we're looking for. So making sure that it's two different processes. So you don't necessarily have a business plan to increase your land base, but at the same time, what are we visioning that plan for, and really looking at all of our funding available for land purchases for that year or for the next 5 years, I think is very important that you're strategic about it in the locations that we purchase land and properties on. As well as businesses. I personally, I don't have a business background. I'm not of a business mindset, but I know enough to know to say that and to recognize those business-minded people, individuals that we have within the nation and our business entities within the nation, and really seeking their input. Was this business, we're looking at starting a new business or purchasing an existing business, what information did it get through our business boards or whatever entity we have set up to take care of that? Because that's what we have to trust our people and the people we put in those places to be use their independence in their decision-making process to say, this is what we vetted this is all the information we have in front of us, we're presenting it to you, to council. And then at the end of the day, yes, if we don't have all the information, I wouldn't say I would vote no, maybe postpone it or table it for a period of time while more information is needed, but to make sure all the questions are asked, because it still may be a good purchase process or business venture, but I wouldn't say no, I'd vote no immediately, but really maybe postpone or look at taking some time to get some more information, having some more meetings. And I think when we look at large purchases, that we really do take our time on those and not present it at the last hour and say, oh, by the way, here, council, we're submitting this to you on Friday, we need you to vote on it tonight or by Monday, to really give council time to review all that information and go through the proper committees and have the questions answered. And if it gets to full council and we don't have all the information, that we can always send it back for more information and for some more time and set another committee meeting date. So I can't say a definite no immediately, just depending on the circumstances, but all the information does need to be there to make an informed decision at the end when if I do decide to vote a yes on a property or business venture.
Thank you. Speaker Tiger, do you want me to repeat the question, or you
yes,
want?
Please.
Okay, I'll repeat that question. What information would you require as a council representative in order to vote on property purchases, business ventures, etc.? If you do not receive the information that you require, will you vote no?
Currently, on the last 3.5 years that I've been on council, been very fortunate because we as representatives are requiring, that you make sure that has a clean deed, clean title, make sure that it is appraised by an independent appraisal company. Because in the past, that's kind of bitten the nation, for overpaying for property that wasn't appraised by an independent appraisal company. Then when you look at the land acquisition part, my opinion is I think the nation needs to own all the property that we can, especially between Okmulgee and Tulsa, because land, is a very valuable asset, and that's part of your sovereignty, your language and your land. Without your land and without your language, you don't have any sovereignty. So I am very much in favor of purchasing all the land that the nation can afford to purchase. And also, if it's for economic development purposes, I've been very fortunate to have a good business background that, you definitely want to do a feasibility study for that reason, because again, it goes back to we've purchased things in the past as a nation that were not successful, and we've always seemed to buy businesses that are not doing well. That's not a good plan in my opinion. Again, I would just soon buy something that's in the black as versus in the red, because then you know what you're getting as soon as you get it. You're not going to have to guess how much you're going to lose for the first 2 or 3 years. So with that question, I would not vote no. I would suggest it go through committee. If we didn't have all the information in committee, I would ask that we have that by the time it's regular session to be voted on. And if we don't have all that information at the time of regular session, then yes, I would vote to postpone that or vote no.
Thank you, sir. Next question, and we'll start with you this time.
Yes, sir.
Is there any specific legislation you have in mind to propose if you are elected?
Yes, but it's already been addressed in one of your previous debates. But I'm going to go ahead and just kind of add some information to that. Riverwalk. Riverwalk at the time, we purchased it at that point in time. Was it a good buy? Maybe yes, maybe no. Is it getting better at bringing revenue to the nation? Still, it's in limbo whether it is or is not. But at the time, it was purchased in 2012 for $14,785,000 total. Okay, that was for that. But there also was a goodwill gesture given to the city of Jinx for $1.135 million, or $1.12 basically. And with that being said, since then we've added Flying T to the Riverwalk property, as an anchor, which the Flying T, it's a very good business concept, but it doesn't benefit the nation in the fact that we're getting $66,200 a month in rent from the Flying T, but our monthly payment's $91,000 a month. So we're having to get into debt retirement to offset the payment difference. And Riverwalk as a whole is basically 95% capacity. And I don't know what the net revenues are going to be this year, but last year I believe the net revenues were somewhere between $350,000 and $450,000 net revenue, which that's after all of expenses, upkeep and maintenance, everything is being done. So I would think that now would probably be a very good time to sell, in my opinion, to step up and try to sell Riverwalk for as much as we could possibly get, because we bought it at what we thought was a good price, but it needed a lot of work.
Yep.
Because there was $3.3 million for upkeep and maintenance that was put in there, and there's also been One Fire has dealt more of their monies into the Riverwalk facility, and that's not what One Fire was intended for. One Fire is to bring in business to the nation, and we as council just kind of pushed that on them and asked them to please get it up and get it going, which they have done a really good job at that. So that's what I would do. I would definitely like to see Riverwalk up on the market for sale.
Ms. Giles, same question for you. Would you like me to repeat that again?
No.
Okay.
Legislatively, there's quite a few things I actually have envisioned as if elected as Tulsa District Representative. And it's some of those things that we have had pending and looming for years across the nation, never actively took a stance on. And that's our elder services, one area for me that I really want us to look at. If you look at the current tribal code, elder services was really meant to set up to be a department and entity of its own kind, really to set up the full gamut range of services for our elders. Elders at the nation are 55 and older. We have talked about nursing home care, assisted living for years. And I always like the saying, you plan to live, you need to plan to die also. And not that elders are the only ones that pass away, but a funeral home in that aspect as well, that we're looking at the full range of life from birth to grave, that we will provide those services as a nation to our people. So really updating the code when we look at elder services, really put forth some effort and a strategic plan to look at a nursing home, assisted living. We have our independent living units here currently, but also realizing the federal government's not giving us additional funding for those things in those areas, as well as there's limited funding out there, but there is funding out there for some new construction and new services in that realm. So I really would like us to say that we as a nation, we're going to put forth this effort. We'll have places that our elders can go and live a good quality of life, get the foods they want, hear the languages, hear the songs on a consistent daily basis, that we're taking care of our own. we live in a time, unfortunately, where a lot of working adults aren't able to not work and take care of their aging parents at home. So it's been a difficult time, and we do the best we can through our caregiver services, but really, why don't we as a nation wrap our arms around our elders and say, look, you're our community, you're our village, and what do we need to do to take care of you? And having that place and home for them, whether it's services in their home or in a nursing home situation or assisted living situation. We have so many elders that's what they want, to maintain as much of their independence as possible, but what can we as a nation help do to help fund that and help keep our elders either in their home or in a place that's comfortable, that we know that they're getting good quality care. Secondly is mental health care. We've talked about this for years, and once again, in knowing the statistics across the state, we can just look around. We don't have good statistics and research at the nation, and that's another thing I'll get to, but quality mental health care. When we look at what services we provide, we're very limited. We have great behavioral health services, but we're still limited when we look at inpatient, either rehab or either in substance abuse or just mental health services or dual diagnoses. And at some point, really as a nation, saying, you know what, we have to help heal our people. We know historically, and historical trauma is carried in our DNA. And then all the other things that happen in our daily lives, that's added stress and added influence into the environment and where we're at. And we just look at the world we're in. There's killings every day. There's just these crazy incidents happening on a daily basis. So what can we as Mvskoke Creek Nation do to help heal our own people and help create a healthy environment and a place where our children and our families feel safe and they're not always in crisis mode, and that our mental health facilities, so I'm envisioning a full, just additional staff, additional therapists with cultural competencies, and then an inpatient unit if we need to have that, which we do need to have that because right now we are everything's outsourced to outside entities across the nation. And there's not that many in Oklahoma. Beds are few and far between. So to have a state-of-the-art mental health facility where our people can go and get the quality health care they need to address their mental health care issues and get the services they need with a cultural component. That's missing in so much of the services we provide. So whether that's just hymn singing, whether that's taking the residents there on outings to our stomp dances or to our churches, or having the language spoken, or even sweats. We see more and more groups doing sweats as part of our healing process, so having that a part of our mental healing process as well, that's truly unique and indigenous to the Mvskoke people. So I think that's important. Again, it takes a lot of planning, a lot of funding, so I can't come and say, oh, I have this great plan, I already have it written. I have a starting point, and that starting point is just creating that conversation between health, between social services, juvenile justice, child welfare, reintegration, all of these programs, bringing them all together and say, what do we really need to help our people live healthier, quality of life. To me, quality of life is so important. And how do we help heal our people? We hear every day and we see the world around us, hurt people, healing people, heal people. So if we can help heal our tribe and heal our community and heal our people, then those people will be more productive and ideally giving back and just creating that 3- or 4-fold. So those are two big areas that are important to me. Going back to what I said, that we need good quality research. So that's a third area that I would want to look at, is that we do set up a true research department with statisticians, with researchers that are going out, because every day we create plans and we do some limited strategic planning as a nation as a whole, but we don't do it consistently. We don't say, here's our plan for the year, here's our plan for the next 5 years, and we stick to it. And we don't publicize it to all of our people and saying, okay, in the next year we're going to have this mental health facility. In the next 5 years we're going to have nursing home care. In the next 3 years we're going to have a domestic violence shelter, any of those things, because this is what our people want. A new administration comes in, they come with their new ideas, okay, this is what they're trying to get done in 4 years. And that's really how things are looked at here at the nation, versus saying, what does our people want? And this has to last through many administrations, and we have to stay focused on that. And as council representatives and as administrations, that we are accountable to our people and to that plan. So I would really like us to see us put some funding aside and have it'd be an administrative function, but say, okay, here's our research department. They're going out and getting that information from our citizens, getting out, seeing what the citizens really want, really need, and giving us good numbers. We try to abstract numbers from information that is out there through census, through surveys and studies. We don't have a good institutional review board right now. I know Health has done some and participated in some through their health clinics. And so it's kind of been hit and miss if somebody's going to do true research for the nation, but then that becomes property of the nation. So I think that's important when we look at what's needed for our nation. And I know we have our planning department and GIS department that are trying to extract that information. Just keep working, bringing all that information together, because we have the foundational points for it, but how do we make it active and interactive for our citizens to fully be in part and be engaged with that, so we can say this is the true picture of Mvskoke Creek Nation. This is the economic factors. This is where people live. This is their educational level. And these are the top 10 things that they want to see done in their communities. And I'm taking what I envision as the top 2 for myself, just based on what I've seen working for the nation and being around the nation since the age of 24 when I previously served on tribal council. So those are the top 3 areas that I want to focus on. There's a lot more we need to get into. We need to look at our taxation code, economic development, and I really like us before I left the nation in my previous capacity, we were really talking and looking at how do we create food codes as we look at our indigenous foods and we look at agriculture and then what we have at the Hannah Farms, but as well as like our Mvskoke corn, those things that were unique to us. Then how do we create a market for this, and then how do we create food codes so that it is safe and that we're selling this within farmers markets within our own property, or helping our farmers in that capacity, so some agricultural codes as well. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and ideally council is looking at all of their laws and all of the codes and constantly updating or repealing or amending as needed. So that would be that constant work in progress too. I've always thought if I had enough time, I would sit there and go through code to code, and trying to get those updated, or saying, are we even following this code as it was written? And we catch them sometimes later, but to actively be doing that, and I think that's what a full-time council is charged to do at this point. We're far enough in our government that we should be able to do that on a consistent basis, and looking at all the codes, and I know and not relying on the Attorney General's office to find it for us later, or a citizen. I mean, that we as council are really looking at the codes that we're responsible for as legislators to keep those updated or repeal if they're outdated. Leto.
Thank you. We'll stay with you for the next question. Are you currently under contract for any entity or organization outside of the Mvskoke Creek Nation, or do you have any previously undisclosed business interests?
I don't have any previously undisclosed business ventures. I wouldn't say I'm under contract, but I serve as chairwoman of the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center. We're a national organization. We provide technical assistance to domestic violence programs, tribal domestic violence programs, and tribal coalitions. So in that capacity, I do a lot of national work in working in sexual assault and domestic violence, increasing awareness and working in the Violence Against Women Act area. It's a volunteer position, but my travel is paid for through the organization, as well as some other opportunities that may come up. And from time to time, I do some consulting work, whether it's a lot of public speaking, a lot of female empowerment, voter registration, and voter engagement, and just youth empowerment as well. So from time to time, I do those types of things under contract, but nothing consistently where I have a set contract that I'm actually working for someone else.
Thank you. Speaker Tiger, same question. Are you currently under contract for any entity or organization outside of the Mvskoke Creek Nation, or do you have any previously undisclosed business interests?
No, I'm not under contract with anyone, but yes, I do have a business of my own. I'm a auto broker, which means I broker cars that my customers, as in dealerships, purchase. I broker those to other transport companies.
Thank you. We're going to stay with you for this next question, Speaker Tiger. What differentiates you from the other candidate in this district?
I would say that we probably have different viewpoints on certain things. Where just like Ms. Giles mentioned earlier, that she doesn't have a business background, which I do have a business background. I've been very fortunate. I had owned a retail store, 2009 to 2013. I had a trucking company from 1996 through 2012. I've been an auto broker for the last 5 years. So I look more at the business side of the nation, what I can do to help promote better economic development, how we can make business that we already have work. You know, so it's, again, like if you do make a purchase, such as, again, let's back up to Riverwalk, it's not working out, it's okay to sell it. You know, it doesn't mean you have to keep it and keep throwing money at it. Throwing money at something that's broken isn't going to always fix it. Sometimes it may help, it may alleviate the pain for a while, but it's still not going to make money. You know, we had the same issue with the country club. You know, it's something else that we threw a lot of money into, and it just wasn't going to be profitable. You know, golf course is not going to be profitable, and it's something that, you know, in my opinion, I'm not afraid to stand up and say, you know, from a business standpoint, this doesn't work. You know, and I'll go back to the flying T. You know, I did not support the flying T, but again, we as council, it passed. We as council support it, so I do everything I can from the moment it passed to support that. And I try to get as many people as I can to go experience the flying T golf venue. It's a very nice venue. People do enjoy it when they go there, but it's just not something I support, and I don't think it's profitable for the nation. So that would be my answer for that.
Ms. Johnson, to you, what differentiates you from the other candidate in this district?
I think my experience and background, I previously served on over 10 years on the tribal council, serving in just about I've served in, the committees have changed over the years, but I've served on every committee that we've had established since I originally was elected, served as second speaker briefly, as well as chaired every committee that I served on. And then later on took a position with the administration in the executive branch. So having that side, and it really was an eye-opener to go from being a legislator for over 10 years to being in executive capacity for a little over 3 years, to really seeing what the different viewpoints were and how the processes were when you think. And people don't realize it until you're actually served in both positions, how different they are. So having that background and experience, as well as my educational experience, I have a master's degree in social work. So my heart's always been in trying to help and serve the people to the best of my ability. I know for me, that's what's driven me to be here, to work for the nation, was the nation had helped me so much with my education and schooling, with my mom's housing at the time, as well as the opportunities that I was awarded while I was in college. So I actually received some funding to actually attend a big social work conference in New York. And I just kept thinking, well, how can I give back to my nation? And this was one capacity to be able to do that in. And being a student of our nation, I'm Mvskoke through and through. And I love everything Mvskoke. I love everything about our food, our culture, our people. And for a long time, it didn't dawn on me that people sometimes seen me as different because I grew up in Tulsa and I was a city Indian. I didn't know what that was because I grew up in Tulsa. That's where I was from. But my family was from Cromwell, and I spent every summer there. And I'm like, but my family's from, most of my Mvskoke Creek family are from this small country town, and my grandma doesn't have central heat and air, and we don't have a phone, and we don't have cable. So I felt like I know that world too. And I always was always trying to understand that, like, how is it so different in Tulsa and so different in Cromwell? And at the same time, listening to my mom tell stories about how they had to use the outhouse. And growing up, that I was thinking of Little House on the Prairie, the 1800s or, the early 1900s. And I'm like, this was 1950 that she didn't have running water in her house. And, and it wasn't probably until the late 60s that they had running water or active electricity. So just trying to understand our Mvskoke people from all the facets that they live in and all the worlds that they live in has really driven me to say, okay, what can I do as a Mvskoke person that is in a convenient location to the nation, to the headquarters. Most people know my daughter has Down syndrome, and when she was born, people would say, well, what does your nation do? What does Creek Nation provide for her? And at the time, there's nothing. And still currently, there's really nothing that the nation provides for direct services for her. So how does she, as a Mvskoke woman, fit into our nation? And she's a Mvskoke voter. So how does she, as a voter, how are we attracting to her and saying, okay, what do you need out of your nation? So I think that's what makes me unique, is that I've taken my life experience and my world experience and trying to look at it from every Mvskoke perspective and really see what is the needs of our people and how do we reach our people and how are we Mvskoke not just in Okmulgee, Oklahoma. And when I worked here for the nation, that was one thing I really worked towards, was decentralizing services, because services need to be where our people were. And we worked really hard to say, we're not 8 through 5, Monday through Friday. The areas we worked in social services, child welfare, domestic violence, we're 24/7. And we had to adjust our times to that, and we had to adjust how we provided services. So I do want us to look at that again from a nation. We're a nation. We're an indigenous people first and foremost. And then we're a governmental agency. Because if the United States say we're not recognizing you as tribes anymore, and with this current federal administration, that's very possible. So what do we do as Mvskoke people to say, how do we take care of our people without that recognition, without that status? Who are we as Mvskoke people? And it is our language, it is our culture, it is our traditions, and feeling like I grew up very much in that. How do we get back to that? If you take this governmental building away, you take away our card tags, you take away our voter registration card, you take away our citizenship card, how do you differentiate me as a Mvskoke woman from a non-Mvskoke woman? And that's what I feel like I have to separate myself from any candidate or from any one individual, but I am as a Mvskoke woman first and foremost. I always say that. There were 2 things I knew I was going to be when my parents first met. I was going to be Cherokee and Mvskoke, because that's what my parents were. And then I was born a female. So I pride myself on that. And the rest of my life was based upon life factors and life circumstances. And so I try to take that and put that experience back into all Mvskoke people. What's their story? What's their origination story? What do they need from us as a nation, as a governmental entity? What can we do to help make their lives better? So I think that's what makes me unique, is our world experience, and then just having a lot of experience. No, I don't have a business background, so I'm very aware of that, being aware of that, and saying, who are those brilliant business-minded Mvskoke people around us? There are tons around us, and how do we trust them and put in trust in them, and how do we make them accountable to our nation and to our people when we put them in positions to make business decisions? So I think that's important as well, that so I had some experience. I did work for a civil engineering company as director of operations, so I was exposed to a world of marketing and HR, business development. It was a Native woman-owned company, so being able to see that side and attend events like the Reservation Economic Development Conference with the National Center, and seeing how contracts are garnered through their process that they had there, as well as really getting to know this tarot process and the 8A, and making some contacts with federal entities as well as other governmental entities outside of the tribe to really help still make those connections, and how do we make those relationships work. But I feel like I do have a lot of knowledge in a lot of different areas, and have a lot of resources available to me that make me unique as a candidate for Tulsa District.